Great. So thank you very much for the introduction. I hope it was nice. But as Jens pointed out, I'm from Ogilvy, and I'm not going to bore you with a very complicated part of Ogilvy's org chart. But I'm from the part that is really passionate about shopper and how people make decisions and behavior economics and essentially why people buy things. So I head up and started this part of, or division of it, called the social shopper, which is looking specifically at how digital tools and social media are impacting people's purchase decisions. This is me, as was kind of pointed out. Some kind of fast facts about my career is I've actually never ran, like actually typed in stuff for a client on Twitter or Facebook. I've never really like had login details to any of kind of social media channels or anything like that. But yet my entire career has been shaped by social media. Just not from a PR or a community management point of view, but more from understanding it to know what people are actually using from it in order to affect what they buy with their money. So this kind of brings me to a little bit of my, or kind of our vision of what social is. And that fundamentally starts with the idea of social being not just a media, but a behavior. So I have another speech that I give where I look at social media campaigns that existed before the internet. And I'm going to briefly tell you one story right now. This was a brand in the 50s, 1950s, that had this great insight that the longer people stay inside of a pub, the more alcohol they drink. It's phenomenal. So they had this idea of like, well, we need to come up with something that keeps them in the pub longer. So what they did is they invented these little bar mats that had little interesting bits of information like what's the fastest animal, what's the tallest mountain, you know, things like that that just kind of start a little conversation. And as these kind of scaled, they saw that people like to talk about things, and when they're in a pub, and whenever they talk, they stay there longer. So this was kind of the first campaign. It was actually built around the idea of getting people to talk to people. And it was built around the idea of the media is actually what people are saying, not what we're producing. It's about how we get people to talk around the environment of our brands. So this brand, of course, is Guinness Beer, and the campaign that they did then is now what's known as the Guinness Book of World Records. So it's interesting how an idea stuck with consumers so much to actually turn into its own business that has nothing to do with the alcohol brand anymore. But it's about looking at this kind of behavior. So moving up to the digital age, we start to see that in digital tools allow this word of mouth, these conversations, to scale incredibly fast. Word of mouth has always been the most powerful vehicle for consumers. It's just that it never could scale. It never could reach strangers. It never could take off virally. But now, as we see that it can, we're starting to see that companies are refocusing where their goals are set. So this comes from a really good guy who used to be the former CMO of Unilever, Simon Clift. And he has this quote that's saying, Unilever is ahead of a lot of the competition in a lot of the different markets. But what we're finding is that we're behind the consumer. And this is the place where we need to kind of catch up. And so over the past 10 years or so, Unilever's focus has been trying to catch up to the consumer, trying to catch up to the tools, to the way they're shopping, to why they're making a purchase decision, what makes a product valuable. And so this has been a really big focus for me, and specifically whenever we start to look at doing digital marketing at all. Because I came across this stat that really kind of terrified me whenever I looked at joining Ogilvy to come up with these kind of larger campaigns. And that's that by the age of 20, most people will have logged, if you're born after 1982, 20,000 hours on the internet. Now, 20,000 hours is equal to that of whenever people go to Juilliard or a music school, that's how many hours you have to practice to become a master. So anytime you do any kind of digital marketing or internet marketing or social media marketing, you're marketing to masters. It's trying to sell a master violinist a violin. This is a really difficult task. These people are professional internet users, and we're trying to come up with something that they would like. So with that in mind, I want to take a little bit different approach to this presentation. I want to tell you some stories. And I don't want to tell you stories about something that Ogilvy's done or some other cool agency has done. I want to tell you stories about what consumers have done. I want to tell you stories about how consumers have navigated the advertisements and all the messages they've got from brands and what they've done whenever brands haven't been in the room. I want to tell you a little bit about how consumers are behaving whenever brands aren't telling them what to do, or even if brands are trying to tell them what to do. So I just have a simple selection of stories for you and some little insights that will kind of follow it. Hopefully some of them will be kind of funny. We'll see. So first story. Does anyone know what this is? Any idea what these people are playing? So this is a game called Icing. And Icing is a game, it's been around, or it's kind of died out a little bit now, but it was around in the early 2000s. And it was a game where you would take this drink that's disgusting called smeared off ice, and you would serve it to your friends lukewarm, but it would be a surprise. So I would have a lukewarm smeared off ice behind my back, and I would present it to you, and you would have to drink it in this position. Now the idea was to find your friends in the most awkward position before they took a test, before they drove, and give them this drink. So obviously it was promoting, one, this drink is disgusting and you're going to hate it. Two, drink irresponsibly. Not exactly the messages that Smeared Off wants to give off. So this was a really interesting challenge for the brand, specifically because this whole idea turned into a huge body of content. There were t-shirts made, blogs, pictures of people getting iced, stories, all of these things that actually, if you look at it from a media buy point of view, this is the biggest campaign Smeared Off Ice has ever done. This was huge, but yet they didn't do it. And this whole idea around how consumers turn their product into a game is really fascinating to me, because this actually promoted a consumer taking a product and thinking about how it's used, not just thinking about why I want to buy it. So I have another little story here from Levi's.
Hey guys, have you ever wondered what goes on behind your back? Well, we figured out a way to bust people, so check out AskCam. We're going to take this on the street and you're going to come with us,
So you get the idea. They've installed a camera inside of the butt of their jeans.
Know how to swing their hips fast, back and forth to the beat. Don't seek or show them how you work that ass. Fellas who keep that ish on lock and know how to keep their lady rock. Love for two-step, beat break, sweat, speakers, spit so damn. Something bigger for you, buying that ish. They selling stores, I rocks like rhymes, quick double time. Wanna test my shine, but I stay fly. Think you're quick, I see you.
She's my favorite. Look at the disdain.
Grab my style, I see you shifting. MTV, TRLT's glorified video. My chicks run ish at the club, get ripped, my dough stay low on the floor like this. My ladies who got their own cash know how to swing their hips fast, back and forth to the beat. Don't seek or show them how you work that ass.
So that's got all of the recipe that you would think of a viral video. It's got really hot girls, finding people in embarrassing situations, and a little bit of kind of technology mixed in. As you can imagine, millions of views, lots of people interested. If you look at the demographics for it, I think it was mostly males from age 25 to 35, scaling down, as you might imagine. Pretty boring, though, from a marketing perspective. It's just a video that went viral. We did that already. That's not that hard to do anymore. But what was interesting is what they followed up with it. So the video that followed up was a how-to-play video. So this video, the demographics were female, and they were female age 15 to 25. They were female age 25 to 35. And it showed how to actually install the camera inside of your jeans, or even like a lo-fi version where you just have the corner of your phone sticking out with the camera so you can record it as you walk down the street. And you started seeing all these videos pop up online that had small views, but it was people saying, I got 7 views when I walked down Regent Street. Oh, I got 20 views with my Luckies when I walked down Fifth Avenue. All of these different experiences where people turned their jeans literally into a game. And this whole idea of showing people how to use a product is something that is really quite inspiring to me. And this is something that I really struggled with as soon as I kind of started dealing a lot more with advertising, is that we often try to invent this new relationship between a person and a product, or we forget about this really powerful relationship that already exists between something that they've invested money in, and et cetera. So a lot of the effort that my team looks at is, one, how do we tell people how to use this product? How do we actually define what people should do with this product in order to kind of show people the story of how this product actually solves a problem in their life? Story 2, my story of you. So this story actually took place on a forum online. There's a forum called Superfuture, and this is, as you can imagine, really trendy people that are kind of a little bit too cool for school type attitudes, where they're always debating like what books are cool, the new cool music, what clubs to go to, and of course fashion as well. So around 2005, the trend that they all kind of bought into was this type of denim called Japanese raw denim. And Japanese raw denim is this very premium, very nice denim, but it's also very limited, or at least at the time it was very limited, because there were only a few mills inside of Japan that were producing it. So most of the luxury brands were the first to kind of get their hands on it and kind of recognize this. One of those brands was Dior. Now Dior is not known for being a cheap brand at all, and yet the people on this board really identified with Dior because the cut was just perfect for them. It was exactly what they were looking for. The problem is a lot of them didn't have the money where they could afford it. So what they did is, and this is true, is they started this little thing, just the group of them, called 19 Centimeters Around the World. And 19 Centimeters Around the World was basically a list of people who all chipped in a certain amount of money, and they bought a pair of jeans that they were going to share. So the idea, well, the fortunate thing about Japanese denim that I left out is that you're not supposed to wash it either, so you can imagine. So the idea was that they had this single pair of jeans, and they had a list and the people's addresses, and they said, okay, I've got it for this month, and then I'm going to send it to my friend for the next month, and then him after that. And so everyone got to have the jeans for a pair of months. They bought multiple sizes, they had different sizes per list. But it wasn't just about sharing the jeans. It was actually came with a little diary. So the little diary was meant to be about how the jeans fit into your life. So it was almost like a members club, where people were not just sharing what they look like in the jeans, as you can see here, but also where they lived, what they ate, the books they read, their house, like all of these different things that actually define who they were. Because for them, the jeans weren't about Dior. It was about the 19 Centimeters Around the World. It was a membership that they had all bought into. It was a style identity. It was a badge that they were wearing. And so there was this way for them to collectively define who they were, and meanwhile produce a lot of content kind of about that. So, which at the same time was a far cry from what Dior actually put out. This guy has holes in his shirt. You saw those kids. I mean, they were like normal-looking kids that just wanted to really kind of enjoy something like that. This is also true for donuts. This picture I actually took with my phone myself. This was a couple blocks away from an apartment I used to live in Austin. And I have celiac, so I don't eat wheat at all. But my girlfriend at the time was sitting next to me in the car, and she's not a really big donut person, I didn't think at least. And then suddenly she said, we have to stop, and we have to have these donuts. And I was like, well, why? I don't really, this isn't something I know you for. So the whole idea came from this sign. So this sign signifies that the donuts are fresh out of the oven. It signifies that this is something that is a really great product. It signifies that almost this code word for the people in the know. It kind of creates this little bit of membership. And so you actually find yourselves participating. This is an old tactic that they've had for a long time. But you find yourself participating in the idea of group buying in this situation, where you find all the people together at this one point in the day where everyone's waiting for the really hot donut. So this is kind of an interesting point whenever you look at these two stories, and this is a chart that came from IBM's CMO study in 2011, but I'm sure all of you have seen it. It's really easily comparing what consumers want from social media to what brands think they want. And you can imagine that this is there's a huge gap. Consumers, They want to be able to buy things, and they want discounts. They want promotions. On the other side, brands think, oh, we want to start a community of engagement. And this is a huge kind of difference that brands are having with consumers. Because brands think, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have people talking about us all the time, or they're going to tell me how much they love our brand. Maybe there'll be a problem. You guys need to be prepared to solve that problem. But this will be great. People will love my brand. Whereas consumers, they want to be able to use the products they love. So this is this idea, and if there's anything that you could take away from this little speech, it'd be this little quick win. For all the times that you're looking at how to define someone's purchase experience, make it a lot deeper. This is something that we're doing on mass scale with almost all of our clients at the moment, is looking how do we go from a dumb promotion, whether it's a promotion about price with coupons, or whether it's a promotion with a value add, or just promoting a new product. How do we go from a dumb, where we're just trying to shift volume and kind of increase market share, to having a smart promotion, where we just digitize it? The easiest thing to do is digitizing coupons. And that way you're capturing data, you're capturing CRM, but you're also able to give consumers a little bit more value. Give consumers them something that they are able to take away, a smarter reward. Because this is what they're looking for anyway. Story 3. If someone loves you, let them play with you. This is another food story. This is great after lunch, right? So this is a real hamburger, I think, or I know it is. There's a restaurant chain in America, or a fast food chain, that's only slightly better than McDonald's. It's still, really quite cheap fast food. But the secret is that they have a really simple menu, or they always have. And they've been just like a hamburger, cheeseburger, French fries, and soda. Very straightforward. But what they started to do is they started to have a lot of other ingredients that they didn't put on the menu. Maybe some jalapenos, maybe some different condiments, different things like that they were allowing people that knew about it to actually kind of order it. So this burger chain is called In-N-Out, and they have a large following in America, even though the quality of the food isn't so great. And part of that reason is because of this idea of a secret menu. So after people started discovering that the restaurants were having all these ingredients that actually weren't part of the main products, they started experimenting with different items on different burgers and kind of coming up with different types of names. So what they would do is they would try different things, and then they would give it a name, like an animal burger or a hot and sour, these different types of burgers that they were kind of inventing with fellow consumers. As the internet rolled around, they actually ended up launching, a wiki where they were keeping track of all of these different types of burgers. Now the funny thing is now In-N-Out, as a burger chain, they use this wiki in their employee manual. So the whole content that the consumers were creating actually ended up stacking up for the burger chain to use as a manual for employees to be able to train on what language consumers are actually going to use. This is a really kind of interesting thing, because the idea that consumers actually feel like they own a little bit of the brand, rather than at McDonald's or Burger King, where they kind of get told what to order, but in this case they have a little bit of personalization, a little bit of ownership. This is also true with IKEA. IKEA has a big blog right now that is sometimes a bit of a problem for the brands, but it's called IKEA Hacker. It's not sponsored by the brand whatsoever, and it's how to take the cheap stuff from IKEA and turn it into something kind of nice. They even mimic the instruction manual in a certain way. But it's this really consumer-led thing to say, I know I bought this, but I want to feel like I came up with it. I want to feel like it's a part of my life. I want to feel like I'm part of the solution here. This is even happening with content. This is a really small bag company that makes leather bags. They're quite good bags, but what they use social media for is to actually have these little communities that define the style across their consumers. In fact, they go as far as to even call their consumers members. And they refer to every time you buy something from them, they say, thank you for your membership. Thank you for your membership. And it feels like it's part of one big group that is kind of designing an aesthetic value for bags. Now, this is really interesting because this company is actually able to compete with Louis Vuitton in Brazil because they have such a tight definition of what their aesthetic values are that identify with the consumers there, and they have a strong e-commerce offering, and so they don't even need to be in stores to be able to pull this off. And then even going all the way to product innovation. So this is something that 3M did. They have these little devices called command strips. And command strips are basically things that you can stick to a wall and attach a picture and it not fall off. Meanwhile, you didn't have to put a nail or a screw in your wall. It's great for decoration, home design, etc. So what they did is they just basically gave these out to a handful of creative people and sponsored their creative projects. What that ended up coming up with is that they actually used all the insights that came from the creatives and from the communities that these people formed to understand how to design different shapes of these command strips. So coming up with product innovation actually by looking at consumers and the content that they're producing. And this is this new value that we find at Ogilvy is becoming an increasing part of our social media offering. It's that the new aesthetic isn't just about coming up with something beautiful, it's about coming up with something personal. Because people feel a different type of value whenever they actually have something that they feel like they owned, that they came up with, that solves their problem. Story 4, the language of experiences. Now this is only one that we kind of did, but it's kind of interesting because it's still consumer-led. So we work a lot with pharmaceutical brands from time to time, and one of them was having a huge problem with one of their depression drugs. It's a very serious drug. This isn't a drug you use just if you're sad, like it's something for people who are chronically depressed. But it often is not used in the right way by consumers. So they either stop the program too early or they take too many, things like that, and it was having a negative effect on the drug's ability to be efficient. So they had a huge problem with consumers not being responsible in the way that they were using it. Also, because they're a pharmaceutical brand, they're not allowed to do any advertising. They're not allowed to have a voice with consumers. They're not allowed to have a dialogue. They're not allowed to do positioning in the same way that you would think with a normal brand. So that kind of came to my team, which you would think would be kind of odd for social media, as the whole thing is about kind of talking to consumers. But after we started diving into the way that people were using this drug by looking at the way that people were talking about it on online forums, the way that they were talking about it on social media channels, and also the way that they were talking about it with their doctor and the research that we were able to gather there, we started finding one very obvious true fact. It's that depression is something that's really difficult to talk about. It's hard to say, I'm more depressed today than I was yesterday, or it's hard for me to even reach out to a community or support group and say, you're more depressed than I am. I have no idea how to compare these different levels of how bad I feel. So this combined with the idea of people not using the drug properly really kind of gave us the insight of rather than doing some kind of big social media campaign, but actually to look at the way that people were talking about the drug. So what we ended up doing was taking the packaging that the drug came in and basically creating a journey for people. And they were able to kind of follow this journey as they took the different drugs at their recommended time. But we didn't just kind of show people a map, we gave it a language. So let's say the 14th pill is called the 2 out of 12. Let's say your 30th pill is called the breakthrough. Maybe the 25th is called the struggle day. All of these different things that kind of a map to people's experiences with the drug started to create a language for people online, so they had a way to actually communicate. I just had my struggle day. I just started my breakthrough week. They started this language, and this started to immediately trickle online, and we had two types of experiences. One, people actually felt like the communities online were actually giving them value because they had a way to discuss this with other people and encourage each other. Two, people would say, oh, I just had my breakthrough day, and people would say, what's that? And it was a way for people to actually promote the brand for us and say, oh, that's because I'm on drug X. And so they could talk about it in this way, which was the first time that this company was able to do that. And that idea was built by this kind of study that MIT did, looking at why we share. This has nothing to do with digital at all. This is just why humans share. And this is part of the brief that I give our creative team every time we start a project, is that everything they come up with has to tick one of these boxes. If I'm going to share something, then it needs to either strengthen my bond with my peers, define our collective identity, or give me status inside of a group. And these three things are incredibly important for coming up with anything that you want to be shareable or spreadable. But that kind of brings me, just to kind of sum up, this idea of how people are actually using products is incredibly important to social media. And I feel like social media is actually a bit of a foot in the door to brands refocusing their business model to being more consumer-centric. So if you look at the history of industry, you'll see that in the Industrial Revolution in 1910, 1920, there was tons of products. And no one had any idea what was a good product and what was a bad product. You had cars, clothing, cigarettes, whatever it is. But then we invented brands. And the idea of brands, whenever we first thought of them, was that brands will tell people if this is a good, bad, expensive, luxury, cheap, functional product. It gave us values. It was a way for us to guide the mass amount of products. Well, now it's 2013, and we saw in the 90s that people felt crowded with advertisements. They felt like advertisements were coming at them from all angles, and we saw a huge rise in people mistrusting advertisements. Oh, this is lying to us. So what we're starting to see with social media is that experiences are starting to become this huge beacon that people are looking for to know what to buy. What experiences have you had with this product? The whole idea of Amazon's ratings and reviews was built around this idea, this insight. But as marketeers, we're starting to find that we're actually marketing to users, not just people who haven't bought yet. We're marketing to people to say, this is how you talk about it. This is the story. This is how it solves your problem. So just to sum up, the idea of consumer psychology to look at is that we find that consumers move in an order to kind of understand what products they want to buy. First, they start off with knowing what is popular, following the crowds. So there's this great stat that my friends at Amazon told us that 80% of consumers, or 83% of shoppers on Amazon won't buy a product with negative reviews. So if you do all the marketing and advertising perfect, you're engaged with the consumer, if it has negative reviews on Amazon, they won't buy it. But what's even more terrifying is that 75% won't buy a product with 0 reviews. Is that we've programmed our brain to say, oh, that's a great product, oh, cool, let me look it up. There's no experience of this. There's no consumer understanding of how this product was used in people's lives. It's dramatically affecting the purchase decisions people are making. 2, taking advice from an authority. Who knows what is good? This is where the description of the reviews, how people talk about a product, is incredibly important. 3, understanding my taste, personalizing my style. What opportunities are we giving people to define their taste with our products, with our brands? And then 3, scarce stuff is good stuff. How are people able to prove that they are connoisseurs of an industry? How are people able to kind of show that they know how to navigate what's new and what's old? How are we showing them what's new and what's interesting? And of course, all of that, I have to hint at this because it's one of my favorite topics, gives us an opportunity to start producing a lot of consumer content, which we then can turn into data. This is where the part where marketing is starting to expand its wings, I feel like, in this whole idea of looking at how we get consumer data. Because this is the part where marketing starts to talk to the CIO, the COO, even the CEO at times. Because we find that our services are actually impacting the overall consumer experience of a product, not just the advertising message. But finally, this idea that I just want to kind of hammer home is that social media is a place that was invented by consumers. All of the people that use it, they use it to talk about their lives. You even can take something as simple as TripAdvisor. Every post on TripAdvisor, every review, starts off with the context of saying, I'm a single mother, or I'm a business traveler, or we have a family of 6. And it gives the context for what follows it. every brand that I've kind of talked to, when they first are introduced to social media, they think this is a place where people go to talk about their brands. But what the most successful campaigns and activities on social media do is they recognize that this is a place for people to talk about their lives. Thanks a lot.